See, we look at that scripture, and be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever man sows, that shall he also reap. And it could mean a number of things, and often it's interpreted first as that if you do something, something is going to come back on you. And we kind of understand that what goes around comes around, karma and all that good stuff. You reap what you sow. But if you consider this, when you consider this, when you're planting a plant, when you put a seed in the ground, I've done this so often in my life. We planted vegetables, my daughter and I, and planted other things early in my life before I was a believer. But planting that seed in the ground and watching it come up and then begin to bloom, sprout into something, and then grow into a plant or a flower, vegetable or whatever. And so you have planted a particular seed, and you've grown from that seed something else. Now what I want to share with you today is as the popular way that we embrace that particular scripture, and I'm not saying it's not correct, but sometimes there are many ways to look at a particular scripture that yes, it may come upon you when you do a particular thing or act a particular way, bad or good, it comes back upon you. But what I want to suggest is when we're being given to understand that what you sow, what you plant is what you're going to reap, is that you own that. It's yours. What you've planted is yours, and what you've reaped is yours. And whatever you plant is going to come back very similar as it begins to grow to that thing that you planted. Maybe just a different form or a larger form of it. And we understand even in vegetables and fruit how you might plant one seed, and from that one seed get many seeds, right? We understand that. So what I'm suggesting today is that when we plant, when we sow hate, when we sow negativity, what we grow in that is more negativity. And that negativity is not coming at us necessarily. That negativity is coming from us. We have planted a seed of negativity within us, and we have been exhibiting that and manifesting that toward, say, a particular people. But what grows from that doesn't grow out and come upon us. What grows from that seed of evil or hatred that's been planted within us are more seeds of evil and hatred that have grown from within us. That which has been planted within us. So when we're given to understand in Scripture that you will reap what you sow, that you will grow what you plant, consider what you've planted is a seed of hatred and anger in you, and what comes forth from you is greater anger and greater hatred. And so we've seen that all throughout our land. And it's Mexicans, and then it's poor people. And then it's liberals or conservatives or we find or white folks or black folks, or we find all rich people or poor people. We find all kinds of, it's just growing. More hate is beginning to manifest. It's beginning to reap from within us. And what happens with that? You look at a dandelion. You look at a dandelion, that little yellow little flower, weed in the middle of your lawn. Many of them. And so just one plant here with this little yellow head on it. And as that thing gets older and all those little furry things come and spread out, there are so many seeds coming from this one plant. And lighting and planting all over the place to where each of those seeds grow up into more. So what I'm suggesting today is what we've been seeing in this nation. We've been seeing this seed of anger and hatred planted within us, even from 9/11, I believe, from the Middle Easterners or the Islam or whoever had really perpetrated that ill against us. Now, logically, if we consider that situation, it was just a few men that perpetrated that particular crime, a handful of men. And maybe spurred on by some other men in another nation. And maybe you could find 100 men, or even 1,000 men, or even 5,000 men. But when you consider that how many people, first of all, how many people out of that religion, how many people out of that nation, how many people out of that country, how many people out of that part of the world, how many people on this world, the people that were responsible for that, were a very small and minimal number. But no matter, the logic doesn't matter, because when pain like that happens and hurt and it happens, logic goes right out the window. So that's where that seed was planted within us, and that seed has grown, and we see it. We can kill a boy with a can of tea and some Skittles and justify the killing. And we can do this time and time again. Until we can see a man that is not of color walk into a theater and kill many people, or another man shoot Gabrielle Gifford and so many people. We see so many perpetrating of this one seed of anger and hate within us, and has begun coming from us multitudes, planting all over our nation and beginning to manifest in pockets all over the place to where we don't even know what to do. Buy more guns. And the problem with this is that the church is bought into this as well. We hate. Negativity begets negativity within you. And so this is the hardest part. You want to get peace, you want to get wellness, you want to get joy back into your life. You want your kids to begin not seeing a contradiction in the words of love of Jesus that you've been teaching and reading at home out of the Bible over the dinner table compared to your life. And it's going to take that mirror. It's going to take some introspection. It's going to take some prayer. Now the hard part is realizing it. But if you're just hearing my words, you should just hear my words and think about this. That hate and Jesus don't mix. Those people that were actually killing Jesus, Jesus could have stood his ground. And this is not a political statement. I'm not saying what I would do, in a situation where I am in jeopardy for my life, or my family's in jeopardy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking in terms of even situations that haven't been perpetrated on you personally. We take the offense of others and let that hate build up in us. To kill. Over hatred. Not necessarily for need or for an immediate situation, but just out of hatred. I was thinking the other day, and I thought I began to mention on the last program, but I didn't elaborate. I was speaking on the gun issue. And the gun issue has permeated the church as well. This is not a political message. We're just talking about this. And I want to say something, and I want you maybe to think about it, because I've been really considering this situation with the gun issue. I was an expert marksman when I was in the military with the M16. Expert. I think I shot 98 out of 100. That was expert. But what I'm seeing today within the nation with the guns, and so the obsession with many guns and many types of guns and powerful guns. I was speaking to another guy recently, and he was talking about the economic collapse that is on the horizon, and then there'll be an apocalypse, and everybody will have to have weapons, and he's got weapons and guns and crossbows and all this stuff. And he's talking about his cousin or something that had like 80,000 rounds so far, and every night all he sits around and just makes more bullets, And I was thinking, after I went home after talking to him that day, because it was very interesting. The similarity between the obsession with guns and an individual's obsession with a drug addict. And what I saw an extreme similarity between the two. And as I began to think about it further and meditate on it, I began to realize that this gun issue in America, that it isn't just about logic and rights and all this stuff. It has become an obsession. It's an addiction. An addiction that's fueled by a make-believe illusion of fear. It's like feeding into that. The need to, you must, because this guy was an intelligent guy talking. His eyes were like really scary, glassed over looking, and we're cool. He was just talking. An addiction. Fueled by the illusion, a make-believe fear of something that doesn't exist, and people spend all their lives. This gentleman, he was talking about just making bullets every night, all of his life. And then one day he'll die. What was his God-given purpose on this planet? What should he have been doing? And we need to guard our hearts. Scripture tells us how important it is to guard our hearts, because out of it flow the issues of life. What does that mean? It is like the conduit. It is like that when we talk about, clogged arteries and clogged hearts and all that stuff, it's that the flow isn't there. There has to be a clean flow of water. I was talking to my daughter the other day about eating right, and we have a family member that had to go through heart surgery because it was all clogged up, and I was reminding her of the sink that we had the other day that was clogged, and I had to get like a hanger and go in there and unclog it and get all that gunk out so there can be a free flow in the pipes because it was backing up. It wasn't working right. And the same thing with an individual's heart physically. It can't be clogged because it is necessary for life to flow and to pump and to flow, the blood and the air to pump through the body. And when Scripture tells us to guard the heart because out of it flow, life and all that, we need to realize there needs to be a free flow. And where is life? Where does that life come from? It comes from God. There's a free flow, a communion with God. And these things that we find ourselves fixing ourselves to, these negative things that just aren't good, begin to clog up the arteries in that heart where goodness and freedom and peace and abundance is supposed to be flowing freely through that heart, and it isn't. And so then we get to be, and that's why it says, be careful what you allow into your heart, what you plant into your heart. Guard your heart carefully, the Scripture tells us. Because these are the seeds of negativity, of hate that begin to plant themselves in us and then begin to grow and clog up the goodness and the free flow of what God is desiring and expecting us to be. We find ourselves all jacked up without knowing which way to go. And as far as human beings, we need a purpose. We have been created almost like as little gods, with purposes in our lives to do something, to be something, to create something. Now this is the problem with drugs, and this is the problem I see with these guns, is it gets our focus off of the productivity that we have been created to be and to do in this earth. And gets us focused on side things that have no real eternal value and don't do a thing but foster that negativity, foster and feed into that obsession of hate and fear, which are like brother and sister in our hearts and our lives. I'm suggesting that we just have to realize this. We have to realize that it's hard sometimes, especially when you're in this thing, to recognize just how just like a drug addict, just like an alcoholic. I mean, my heart goes out to those people. Sometimes I was listening to a woman at work, and she was talking about how her mother or something had given some money to this guy that said he needed money. He was outside, begging for money, and she goes and buys him a hamburger, and he takes the hamburger and throws it away, and then she gets mad. Man, he's an addict. He isn't looking for that hamburger. Even though the hamburgers, he was skinny, the thing that he needed. We can't see what we need oftentimes. And an addict and a drug addict is an extreme example, but we are like that in so many areas of our lives. And the problem is we don't see it that way. What I'm suggesting today is we need to begin to look at the manifestations of our life. If we can't see that there's something wrong, begin to look at the product, what our lives are kicking out. There's an old Buddhist saying that says if you need to find the mother, if you can't find the mother, find the children and follow the children back to the mother. If you can't see that thing that is actually wrong with you, look at the manifestations in your life and begin to identify the issue through the negative manifestations in your life. As your family falling apart? Is your job situation all jacked up? Are your finances awry? Is everything, all your relationships, physical situation, emotional situation, are these things jacked up in your life? Then there's something wrong, because you were not created to be that way. That free flow, using that heart again as an analogy, but as a symbolic analogy of your life, that free flow isn't there. If that free flow was there, you would be healthy and you would be well. Everybody's not doing poorly in a poor economy. Everybody's relationship isn't screwed up. Everybody's health isn't screwed up. If yours is, why? Is it you? Or we can go ahead and have surgeries and have this fixed, or we can go ahead and have take certain kind of medicines, to have this fixed. Or we can go find a new wife, or we can have that fixed. We can quit our job and look for another one. We have so many ways of fixing things. But is the problem you? Is the problem your heart? Is there hate manifesting in your life when Jesus said love? That's it. The Christian I was talking to was talking about how the Christians in church, they know the Bible so well. Do they? Do we? Do you love? Do you hate? And really, you could just close the book right there. Right there. That's it. Do you hate? Do you hate Muslims? Do you hate Jehovah's Witnesses? Do you hate gay people? Do you hate so-called unsaved people? Do you hate people from other religions, other nations? Do you hate folks? And there's something wrong with your heart. And that's all I'm trying to get you to see right now, because the fix is easy. They're realizing it. That's the hard part. Because all we see is what's wrong with everybody else. We don't see what's wrong with us. I see what's wrong with him or what's wrong with her. And look at that. Look what she's doing. Look how she's acting. Look how he's dressed. Look how she's dressed. Look at all that stuff about other folks. But we very rarely see ourselves. That's the hard part. So as we're getting ready to close this, I'm going to assume that you begin to see yourself right now. Look at the situations of your life and stop blaming them on everybody else. Stop blaming them on anybody else. It's your life. It's your situation. What I'm suggesting is once you see that, all it takes is a prayer. All it takes is not even an elaborate prayer. Say, God, fix me. God, take everything out of me that's not like Christ. God, fill me afresh with your Spirit. Open my eyes to see what you see. Open my eyes to see me how you see me. Show me the way I'm supposed to go. Move me to the place that I'm supposed to go to become the person I'm supposed to be. Submit to God, simply. I'm not talking about submit to your pastor or anybody else, but submit to God. Say, God, lead me, guide me. Take me the path that you wish me to go. And you will go. But you have to see, you have to recognize that there's something wrong. Jesus said, when he came back and he came to help folks, the religious folks they were the most jacked up people. We don't need you. Are we sick too? And Jesus said, no, I didn't come to see about you. If you don't think you're sick, I can't help you. Just realize that you're kind of jacked up. Me too. Well, why do you think I preach so much mercy and so much grace on every program? Well, why do you think I say if I'm okay, everybody's got to be okay, anybody's going to be okay if I'm okay? Because I know how jacked up I am. I'm saying that's it. Just know, just realize, understand what you're about. Understand your failings. No, you don't need any pride. Be for real. I don't even want to say humility. Humility is a make-believe. Pride is a make-believe. The reality is who you are is who you are. Just be real. God can work with that. That's where we start. That's where it all begins. For real. There is peace in that. You'll get there. Keep your chin up. Keep your hope up. Look at yourself honestly. Look at yourself critically. Don't beat up on yourself, but look at yourself for real in the mirror. I've been working out. As I tell you in programs since like April. And I can stand in front of the mirror, and, I'm still not there, but I can hold my gut in and stand like this, and I can, look at that, But I'm holding my gut in. Then you let it out, and you say, oh, man, I still got a ways to go. You said, let your gut out. Just relax. Be honest with who you really are. God can work with that.